Hi, I'm Deanna Kizis, and I'm hosting the Psoriatic Arthritis Club, a new podcast from CreakyJoints and the Global Healthy Living Foundation about the ups and downs of managing psoriatic arthritis. I'll be talking to people living with PSA, sharing their stories, what they've overcome, how they're coping, and what's working for them. Plus perspectives and insights from top rheumatologists. I'm an author and a journalist who interviews people for a living. But the real reason I was so eager to get involved with this podcast is because I have psoriatic arthritis too, and I know I have a lot to learn about it. In the 2 years since I got diagnosed, one of the things that started to worry me the most is what will it be like to have this chronic disease for the rest of my life? I'm only 51 and I have an 8-year-old daughter, so there are a lot of unknowns for me. I want to stay healthy for her and for myself. That's why I was so eager to speak with fellow PSA patient Diane Talbert, who's been dealing with psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis for pretty much her entire life. She's been through so much, as you'll hear, and she was really comforting and helpful. Just a reminder, I'm not doling out medical advice here. I'm not a doctor, but there will be one on later in the show. I really think it's important that those of us who have PSA try to help each other by sharing our experiences. So let's do it. I want to know that when I get to your age, what is going to happen?
You're going to be awesome.
I am?
It's going to be awesome, yes.
Diane is 63 years old and she lives in Maryland. She's married, has 2 sons and 6 grandchildren, and she's one of the most positive people I've met on my PSA journey so far. But seriously, Diane has had it tough. Her disease went mistreated for decades, and she had some early childhood experiences that must have been really hard. That's why I was struck by her resilience and the fact that she kept pushing for better care for her PSA.
Well, I got psoriasis at the age of 5. I probably had it before that, but I remember that my first day of school, when I went to school, they told me I couldn't come in because I was covered from head to toe in psoriasis, and they thought I was contagious. So I knew from that moment that I was different. All the other kids were wearing, short sleeves and shorts. And my mother always covered me up in clothes because she didn't want me to feel different or embarrassed. I didn't really feel out of place until maybe in my teenage years. And that's when kids started pointing and staring and going, "Ooh, what is that on you?" And, kids are mean, so they would say mean things. And that kind of, made me feel bad and very insecure in life. They didn't know how to treat my skin. Nobody had ever seen anyone with such a bad case of psoriasis. And when you would read about psoriasis in textbooks, it was always flaky, white, and mine was not like it. I had dark, purplish psoriasis. They just didn't know how to treat me. So that was the problem.
I'm so sorry. And what a terrible time, too, to be an adolescent and going through something like that where you're already so self-conscious and trying to find your place in the world.
I actually started having pain at a young age, but again, because nobody had even heard of psoriatic arthritis, I started having symptoms that I remember most was at age 25. And I remember I would go to my doctor and I would tell them, I'm having these symptoms of having pain in my body. I can't lift my arms, can't comb my hair. I just started getting like stiffness in my shoulders. There was pain in my hands and my knees. It was just pain all over. And I went to my doctor, and back then, because they didn't put psoriasis wasn't connected with psoriatic arthritis, so they just told me it was in my head. So I went back to the doctor again and said, I think this is arthritis. He goes, "No, you're too young to have arthritis." He was kind of saying, "Stop over-exaggerating. There's really nothing wrong with you. Just go get some rest. You're too young to have the pain that you're saying you're having." This went on for years, just going back and forth to doctors. They would give me medicines, the ones that would, and even give me pain medicine, but they would all say, "There's nothing wrong with you. Just like chill out." So I decided there's nothing wrong with me. Maybe it is in my head.
Oh my gosh, I hate this story.
It got worse. And actually a dermatologist at the time says, "Why don't you see a rheumatologist?" I didn't even know what a rheumatologist was. Go see a rheumatologist. So 50 years old, I went to a rheumatologist who did just extensive tests on me from head to toe. I mean, it was just amazing. And he came back and he says, "Yes, you have what's called psoriatic arthritis." From that day on, we started treating you for psoriatic arthritis.
Do you think that had anything to do with your gender or being a Black woman or any of those things?
I believe that because I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. I was a woman. I wasn't very educated when it came to my skin, that they told me anything. I don't think that I would have suffered so much in my life if I wasn't a Black woman. I think things would have been different. And also I believe that because I didn't have the greatest insurance back in the day, that I got low quality care. And I think that that's something that we all need to talk more about, is disparities in healthcare. You know, we get overlooked a lot, and this is nothing new. It's always been like this. You know, like I said, I went years taking a treatment that didn't work for me, and not one doctor said, let's do something different.
You've had all of this experience, and so how is there a way to help other people in terms of if there's someone else who was listening to this who is a person of color, a woman of color, a person who doesn't have a lot of money, what would you add? What would you say?
That's such a good question. For me, pain is physical. Pain is not something we dream up. It's really there, you know, because nobody believes you doesn't mean that it's not there. I mean, having chronic pain, it affects your body, it affects your mind, your emotions, it affects your relationships with family and friends. And it's just, you know, it's something that we just have to keep harping to tell people this is real. And if you do get a medication, and maybe if you don't have a lot of money, don't settle for the first medication a doctor throws at you, especially if it's not working, you know. And then if it's not working, say something. Don't wait, like I did, 25 years before, you know, say something is wrong here. I mean, and you have to get treated because you don't want to damage your joints. You know, we can't wait too long to start a treatment, you know, because we don't want to get sicker.
It's hard to hear Diane's story and about all of the roadblocks she faced. Race and medical care is such an important topic, and frankly, it could be a podcast all on its own. So I asked rheumatologist Dr. Grace Wright about the challenges of accessing better care and treatment for PSA when you're a person of color.
When we think about the difficulties that patients face and being diagnosed, it's compounded by the difficulties patients who have different skin colors often face. So, you know, there are so many barriers that we can run into, and it's difficult when you have a shortage of supply of physicians who look like you, that might connect with you more easily in some cases, based on, you know, the kinds of rash that they themselves may experience, the differences, because we don't have enough diversity amongst our healthcare provider group. So that's not always easy. And so sometimes you really have to stand up and say, that's not what I said. That's not what I'm feeling. So, I go back to the courage that's needed to confront the doctor who's dismissing you, or the courage that's needed to find that person who's going to take the time to do the investigations. And sometimes it's clear to a patient that it's not going to be this person because I don't have a rapport. I can't seem to get them to hear me. And it's okay to then find somebody else. So it's really having the courage to insist again. It's like if you go to the store and you wanted, this bag of flour and they don't have it, you ask them, can you check in the back and see if it's there? It's the same approach. Can you check again? Because I really want to know what this is. Maybe it's just dry skin, but I really want to know. That's the way it builds courage so that you're able to push past the barrier in which sometimes you're discounted as a patient sitting in the room. I can talk about this for a long time. We're actually writing an entire educational series on this, so it's a very, very important issue.
Hearing Dr. Wright talk about courage immediately made me think about Diane, because she does have that courage. She pushed, she persisted, and when she finally found the right doctor, things started to change for the better. So then how did you get properly treated? How did you find a doctor? What happened?
It took me 30 years to find a doctor. I lost count of the doctors that I had seen over the years, and I wasn't educated enough to know that I could get clear. So in my mind, I always thought, well, this is the best I'll ever get. When I was, I think, around 38, my body kind of exploded. I was 90% covered in psoriasis. I was in the worst pain of my life. It even hurt for water to touch me. And I knew at that time, I was like, nobody can live like this. And this when my husband and I decided, enough is enough. we're just going to find a good doctor, and he took off from work that week, and that's what we did. We searched for a doctor, and we found one, and I've had him for like 15 years now.
What happened when you went to the doctor? What did the doctor say?
He was the best. He sent me down. He actually talked to me first, because we need to work on a treatment plan that works for you. He wasn't talking at me. He talked to me. We need to do something together. When treatment stopped working, he actually sets me down, and we will discuss a treatment plan. We'll try this for 3 months. If it doesn't work, then we're going to put on something else. He's not one of these doctors who rushes in and rushes out. He sits down with me and has a conversation, and I really like that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, having the right doctor is so important, because if you can't even, get to the point where someone's listening to your symptoms and has good ideas, and by the way, more than one idea, then you can't get better. They're kind of the gateway to whatever treatment you're going to need, right?
Yes, exactly.
So Diane, tell me about what kind of symptoms you have right now. What's going on with you?
Well, right now, I have the psoriasis, of course. It never goes away. But I also have the pain of the psoriatic arthritis. It's in my elbows, my shoulders, my arms. It's like the pain starts at my knees, and it just works its way up, and it doesn't go away. The pain is always there all the time. That's basically it.
Yeah, and I get it. I'm assuming you've been talking to your doctor about what's going on. Are you guys going to keep going with the same one or try something else?
I have been on 7 biologics, and I think my body is just running its course. But we always just go to another one. If it's not working in 6 months, we'll go off of it and just start in a new one to see if it works. And so I've been on biologics for 20 years now.
Right.
And yeah, so it's just ran its course, and I understand that.
Look, I've only had PSA for 2 years, and I'm still trying to figure out the right treatment plan. It can be really frustrating. When I was first diagnosed, I thought I would just take a medication and feel better right away. Now I know it can take more trial and error than that. And look, as Diane said, if one medication doesn't work, partner with your doctor and figure out what's next. For me, that seemed like really good advice. So next, our conversation turned to the idea of what feeling better would look like for us. I know that doctors now are doing this thing where they're talking about the idea of minimal disease activity. I think the idea is getting to the least amount of symptoms kind of across the whole spectrum of symptoms that you have. So for me, what I would consider like a more minimal disease activity would be, my skin's actually pretty good, but not 2 or 3 flares a month, and fatigue issues and brain fog. Those would be things that I would really like to see minimized personally.
So for me, I guess it would be like less flares. If I had less flares, I wouldn't stay in bed as much. Maybe I could go to the store more often, or even go out with my husband sometimes instead of going. I'm really drained right now. I don't want to do anything. Or when friends call me, I can say, I can stop saying, I'm sorry, I'm tired today. And them saying, well, you weren't tired yesterday. The other thing would be, the pain. I mean, we have pain every day. So I guess less pain would be one of them. It hurts to walk sometimes. So,
yeah.
So, I mean, that would be minimum disease activity to be able to walk, longer walks. Even I have a dog. I can't even walk my dog because it's too much. And because I'm in pain, he's not a big dog, but he's strong. I'm scared he's going to hurt me.
Because you've really been dealing with this for a while, how have you been able to deal with it in terms of emotionally? I mean, you have so much experience with this, so I don't know. It must have changed over time.
It did. It actually got better for me as I got older, as I got wiser, as I learned about me, my disease. But I also had to learn how to tell my story, and that's what I did. I learned to tell my story, and it wasn't an overnight thing. It took me a long time to get where I'm at. But my having psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis has truly made me a better person. Truly. I've got speaking from the FDA before. I go to Capitol Hill every year and speak in front of Congress. I attend conferences. I go to events. I'm doing this podcast right now. So I get to do all these amazing things in the name of psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. I have met people, seen people that most people will never see in their whole life. Someone told me, just like I said, someone told me years ago, you have a voice, use it. That had to be the best advice ever. Use your voice. I just never knew how far my voice could go. And sometimes I still, to this day, stop mumbling, girl,
No, you're not mumbling.
Just knew, and I knew years ago that I wanted to help people. I didn't want people to feel like they were by themselves, but that's how I felt my whole life, that I was alone, that there was nobody like me, no one understood.
I admire Diane's attitude. She's not so positive that it feels like a bunch of bull. She definitely is keeping it real. She has symptoms. She doesn't have it all figured out. But she has this wisdom and perspective that is really reassuring, right? Anyway, like I said at the start of this podcast, I have concerns about having a chronic illness for the rest of my life. So I was eager to get Diane's take on that.
And what about the stigma? You talk about how you have, skin stuff. When you're flaring, when your skin is flaring, it's always flaring, right?
Right, it's always flaring.
So how do you deal with that? Do you worry about stigma anymore, or are you just like...
Not at this point in my life. I don't care anymore. I'm not a teenager anymore. Like, I'm in my 60s. If you don't want to look at me, go away. Just leave me alone. I don't really care anymore. That's just my take on it.
I think as women, we gain a lot of power back when we decide that we're not here to be looked at by other people for approval.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't really need that, actually. I have so much more to offer than what, my leg looks like.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And if you don't get that, then I really don't have time for you.
That is so true.
I worry about, the progression of the disease. I get scared. I try not to think about it too much, because I worry about pain. And if I'm this way now, what am I going to be like in 20 years?
Trust me. I understand what you're saying. And I used to feel the same way. And like I say, for me, I had to learn to balance things in my life. And I couldn't really worry about, am I going to get worse? But one of the things that I learned over the years, we have to also take care of ourselves. If somebody else is not going to do it for us, we do it for ourselves. And one of the things I do is, as a psoriatic arthritis patient, as you know, we get tired more often, so we need more sleep. So I'm saying, go get your rest.
Absolutely.
And another thing is keep your stress under, at a minimum. It's hard, but stress it really triggers our disease, so try to manage your stress. And then the last thing, growing up, as I said before, I kept to myself, wouldn't talk to people. So, and I used to keep everything in. I wouldn't tell anybody. And if this is you, I would suggest, maybe just talking to a therapist or a good friend or just, anybody. And my last thing is, remember, you are not alone in this journey. There's always someone you can talk to or help you.
Diane, this has been such an incredible pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, really. I learned so much.
Oh, thank you. This was awesome. Thank you for making me feel comfortable. I've learned so much from you, too. Thank you.
So I think Diane helped me feel less alone, and I hope she did that for you, too. Speaking with her was really validating. I struggle with the fact that I have a disease that other people can't see. Yeah, I have psoriasis, but I can cover that up. I worry that people will think I'm a wimp if I don't feel well, or I'm being too needy or complainy. Hearing about everything Diane's been through, I think it does give me that permission to take care of myself. Diane showed me why I shouldn't settle, even if it's been a really long time since I felt well. I was struck by her perseverance and how she ultimately developed the confidence to be heard. Her story shows how important it is to have doctors you trust, who listen to you, and who will work with you. And by the way, hearing her say that it's going to be okay really meant something to me, because she's been there and she's still fighting. That's it, guys. Be well, take good care of yourself, and thanks for listening to the Psoriatic Arthritis Club.
This podcast was made possible with support from AbbVie. For more support and stories from other PSA patients like you, subscribe to the Psoriatic Arthritis Club or visit psoriaticarthritisclub.org. You can also visit CreakyJoints.org for the latest information and news about living better with PSA.